Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. The woman stood across the room, and this time, a new man was by her side. It didn't sting anymore. Liam had moved on, finding a connection with someone from his past who had made his ex, Clara, a distant memory. Still, he knew a confrontation was brewing for Monday. That Saturday evening, he found himself walking into Bella Luna Trattoria alone. Clara was there, indeed, with a man Liam recognized, though it wasn't her current husband. Liam was waiting to celebrate his niece Lily's 15th birthday with his sister, Sarah, and her other daughters, Chloe and Maya. They had planned this night for over a month. The woman who still had the power to unsettle him was his ex-wife, Clara. Her current husband was the very man she'd had an affair with, ending their brief marriage. It seemed history was repeating itself. Discreetly, Liam slipped out his phone and snapped a few quick pictures before they noticed him. Clara's face held that familiar guilty expression he'd seen years ago when he confronted her about the affair that shattered their 2-year marriage. Liam's full name was Liam Walker, but to family and friends, he was just Lee. Clara Peterson, formerly Walker, was 31, while Liam was 33. The man with her was Daniel Hayes, his soon-to-be former business partner. They co-owned SecureTech Solutions, a thriving cybersecurity firm. Daniel knew Liam's firm stance against infidelity, especially involving married individuals. When Daniel finally spotted him, he saw the phone in Liam's hand, and his face visibly fell. Determined not to let this ruin his niece's special night, Liam turned away and sat on a nearby bench to wait for Sarah and the girls. Sarah's husband had left some time ago, running off with a younger woman, so Liam had naturally stepped into a father figure role for her daughters. Just as Clara started walking towards him, Sarah and the girls entered the restaurant. Liam quickly rose to greet them, enveloped in warm hugs from all 3 girls. Sarah must have sensed the tension in the air. She glanced at Clara and whispered, "Don't let her get to you, Lee. She messed up, not you. Looks like she hasn't learned a thing." "I'm not worried about her," Liam replied, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "She's here with Daniel," Sarah added, her voice tight. "I remember you telling him what would happen if you ever saw him with a married woman. Shameless, but I thought he valued the business more. Monday, I'm done with him. I'll either buy his shares, sell mine, or take them to the open market." Liam took a slow, deep breath, letting the knot of tension in his chest loosen. "Now," he smiled, turning his attention fully to his sister and nieces. "Let's enjoy a wonderful dinner. No distractions. Just great food and celebrating the best mother these 3 girls could ever ask for." The dinner was indeed wonderful. Lily beamed as she admired the locket Liam had chosen for her, laughing when she read the inscription. "To one of my favorite nieces." She playfully punched his arm. "Of course, your sisters are also my favorites," he quickly added, earning him a genuine hug and kiss from the birthday girl. He planned to get Chloe and Maya similar lockets with the same inscription for their birthdays, each made of a different precious metal. Liam had met Clara Jenkins back when he was fresh out of college, doing freelance cybersecurity work at the accounting firm where she was a junior administrative assistant. The entire company had been hit with a sophisticated Trojan horse virus. It wasn't designed to destroy data, but it had recoded all the user information and wiped out all their passwords. The company assigned Clara to assist him, as she had good computer input skills. Liam quickly identified the Trojan and traced it back to its installation date and the specific computer it had entered the system from. He concluded it was deliberate sabotage, a theory the company agreed with, suspecting a recently fired employee. Liam restored all the corrupted data, implemented a military-grade handshake protocol, and installed robust anti-malware software. With the crisis averted and their data recovered, the company issued new passwords and paid him handsomely, also providing a glowing letter of recommendation for his swift and effective work. Word spread about his ability to tackle complex technical issues. Not only did he get more work, but he also secured a date with Clara. They went out regularly for a couple of months, and Liam, feeling a connection, asked for exclusivity. Clara demurred, saying she wasn't ready. So, Liam stopped asking her out. He wasn't angry, just confused. They spent almost every weekend together. Surely she wasn't juggling other dates then? About a month later, Clara called, sounding surprised that he hadn't been in touch. When Liam explained that if she wasn't ready for an exclusive relationship, she wasn't truly invested in seeing where things could go between them, they didn't get back together. Around that time, Liam's business was booming. He needed an assistant. He interviewed several candidates, and when he met Daniel impressed him with ideas for expansion and offered to buy into the business for a 45% stake. Liam agreed, seeing the potential. Soon, their firm had 5 employees, a steady stream of clients, and healthy profits. A few months later, Clara called again, asking if Liam would be willing to date her. He said he could see a way forward, but he wouldn't be seeking an exclusive arrangement. He explained that if she felt free to date others, so would he. He also added that there would be no intimacy until she decided he was the one and only. That declaration went over like a lead balloon. He heard a sharp click as she hung up. Liam was disappointed but not surprised. Clara wasn't one to take kindly to someone pointing out her inconsistencies. A week later, she called again, inviting him to a play. She knew his weakness for live theater. They went, and that rekindled their dating life. This time, they dated for nearly a year. One Friday evening after dinner, Clara announced she was ready to be exclusive. Liam, feeling a surge of old hurt and a touch of childish stubbornness, simply said, "I'm not," and left. He'd lied. He had been exclusive in his heart, but like a child whose favorite toy had been broken, he was still nursing a grudge. Clara hadn't turned down any dates with him, and they had spent almost every Friday and Saturday together. A couple of weeks later, his phone rang. Clara's voice, surprisingly light and teasing, filled his ear. "Hey jerk, over your little fit yet?" Then she giggled. "Yeah, I guess I am." Liam chuckled, the tension finally easing. "Shall we start being onlys then?" she asked. "Works for me." They dated for another 6 months, and then Liam proposed. Clara said yes immediately. Then came the whirlwind of wedding planning. They set a date 6 months out and initially envisioned a small, family-only affair. Clara didn't have a close relationship with Liam's family. His mother, Carol, had taken him aside, her brow furrowed with concern. She'd seen Clara openly flirting with other men during a family dinner. Liam, blinded by love and perhaps a touch of naivety, had dismissed her concerns. He did, however, heed one piece of her advice. He had his business lawyer draft a prenuptial agreement to protect his company. It also included clauses outlining penalties for adultery or abuse. Wedding plans continued, and as the date approached, the guest list ballooned. Clara seemed to have invited her entire high school graduating class and all their distant relatives. Liam had simply invited his family. He put his foot down, informing Clara that while it was her day, he wouldn't be paying for a reception of 300 people. She would need to find the extra funds or they would revert to their original plan of a small family celebration. She somehow secured the money. The reception was so large they had to have 2 dinner seatings. It was quite the party, and they left late, exhausted but happy. The next day, as they were embarking on their honeymoon, the police were called to break up a brawl between some of Clara's family and her cousins. When Liam called his mother, Carol confessed she hadn't had that much fun in years. She also mentioned that Clara's mother would likely have a black eye for a couple of weeks, and one of her cousins had sustained a concussion. 3 others were sporting bruises. At least 10 people received citations for drunk and disorderly conduct. Their honeymoon destination was Jacksonville, Florida. They had a room on the Atlantic side of a beachfront hotel. They spent their days on the sand and also explored St. Augustine and other local attractions. Upon their return, Liam found a backlog of clients needing his cybersecurity expertise. He had become the primary salesperson for the company. While he was nearly as skilled as Daniel in the technical aspects, Daniel was the true tech guru but lacked people skills. The overtime catch-up took less than a week. Clara found a job keeping the books at a local hardware store. She also helped out at the cash register during lunch breaks and other times. The pay was above minimum wage but hourly, not salaried. The business continued to thrive. His marriage, however, did not. Just over a year into their marriage, Clara started working late 2 or 3 times a week. This wouldn't have been an issue, but her paychecks showed no overtime and were consistently the same amount each week. Liam decided he wouldn't tolerate it and confronted her. She didn't deny anything. In fact, she seemed almost pleased that he'd discovered her infidelity. She asked for a divorce, stating she only wanted her clothes and jewelry. Liam agreed, and less than 18 months after saying, "I do," he was single again. About 6 months after the divorce, Liam saw an announcement in the local paper. Ms. Clara Jenkins was wed to Mr. Robert Finley in a small civil ceremony last weekend. Mr. Finley is the owner of Finley's Hardware and a widower of 4 years. Liam wasn't surprised. He'd suspected she'd been involved with her boss. He threw himself back into work and started spending more time with Sarah and her daughters. He also made amends with his mother, Carol, showering her with affection. She still loved him even when he felt utterly foolish. As the old saying went, mothers were like that. Yeah, they were. Liam moved on but didn't immediately jump back into the dating scene. Clara's betrayal had soured him on the idea. He realized he was more hurt by the lies than by the cheating itself. After the awkward dinner at Bella Luna, Liam returned home and decided to host a cookout on Sunday after everyone went to church. He called everyone early Saturday to make the arrangements. He had a large yard and, being a bit of a gadget enthusiast, owned the latest charcoal smoker and a restaurant-grade stove and oven. Since his divorce, they hadn't seen much use. Cooking for one wasn't much fun. When it came to getting people to accept his invitations, he had an advantage: an indoor pool and a sprawling backyard. Sarah's girls loved both and swam like little fish. They were always enthusiastic about parties at his house. After confirming everyone was on board for the barbecue, Liam went out and bought charcoal, hickory chips, and a 14-pound brisket. He added salad ingredients, pickles, olives, a couple of different sauces, and ice cream and fruit for dessert. Carol offered to bring her famous scalloped potatoes and a 3-bean casserole. As always, they would divide up the leftovers so everyone, except the host, would leave with more food than they brought. After prepping the food and getting the smoker going, Liam sat down to relax. Just then, his phone started ringing. The first call was from Daniel, trying to deny any romantic involvement with Clara. Liam cut him off, stating that what he'd seen was irrefutable proof. He gave Daniel an ultimatum: buy him out, he'd buy Daniel out, or he'd sell his share of the company. He told Daniel to give him a price on Monday and then to get lost. The next call was from Clara. She asked if he was going to tell Robert. Liam said no, but if he didn't see a divorce announcement in the paper within the next week, he would. He pointed out that even after their own messy breakup, Robert didn't deserve to be cheated on. Clara retorted with, "It was the first time, and you seeing us ruined everything." "That doesn't matter, Clara. The intention was there. I'd bet $10,000 you'll try to meet again, and if you do, you'll go through with it. I just don't understand why you insist on getting married if you want to sleep around. There are plenty of men who would be willing." Liam ended the call and went to bed. The Sunday barbecue was a huge success. Lily, Chloe, and Maya exhausted themselves swimming in the pool. The party didn't wind down until after 8 o'clock. Everyone had a fantastic time. Carol asked if she could stay over. She wanted to talk. Liam quickly prepared the guest room. Carol stayed often enough that she kept pajamas at his house. They cleaned up. Liam made sure the smoker was off and they both showered. Carol, in her pajamas, joined him in the den. She talked, her voice filled with concern about Clara and Daniel. "I know how you feel about cheaters, Lee. I also know that you don't have much of a social life outside of work and family. You go to work, come home, that's it. You need someone in your life. You're still young. Don't let that cheating woman destroy your desire for companionship. Now I'm tired. It was a great party, and those girls wore me out just watching them. Good night, my darling son. You're a good man. Get back out there. There are good women out there. I love you." She kissed his cheek and went to bed. Liam sat in the dark, pondering his mother's words. She'd made a lot of sense. He decided he would venture back into the dating scene. He wasn't a drinker, so bars weren't his thing, but he enjoyed dancing, and there were a couple of country dance halls in town. He resolved to check them out. He also made a firm decision about his company. He knew Daniel couldn't run it effectively on his own. He would offer Daniel a 30-day period to find buyers, with the understanding that both of them would exit the ownership. He planned to recommend to any potential buyers that they retain Daniel as the lead programmer and debugger, as Daniel was, in his opinion, the best he'd ever seen in that specific role, despite his social ineptitude. Several hours later, Liam finally went to bed, managing a solid 3 hours of sleep before Monday morning. The meeting with Daniel went surprisingly smoothly. Daniel even admitted that after Liam had inadvertently exposed his affair, he'd reflected on what it would have been like if Liam had still been Clara's husband. He readily agreed to the 30-day plan and suggested they bring in a professional to assess the company's value. Liam made some calls and found a reputable firm in Lansing, Michigan, that specialized in such evaluations. They quoted a flat fee plus expenses and promised someone would be at their offices before the end of the week. When Liam arrived home that evening, Carol was still there. She was curious about what had kept him up until 3 in the morning. He explained his plans regarding the company and his conversation with Daniel. Then, Carol surprised him by asking, "Why don't you help me sell my house and convert that large room above your garage into an apartment for me? I love it out here. It's quiet. The air is clean, and I enjoy being around you." Liam thought for a moment and replied, "That's a fantastic idea, Mom. You know I love having you around, and knowing you like it here makes me very happy. And," he continued, "I'm going to take your advice from Sunday. I'm going to go to Conway's Dance Emporium, that country dance hall bar, and start getting back into life." This earned him a warm kiss from his mother and a request to take a day off work to help her move some of her belongings over to his place. She would stay in the guest room until the garage apartment was finished. The Friday paper arrived, and in the legal notices, Liam spotted a filing for divorce. Finley versus Finley. Clara had actually taken his ultimatum seriously. Liam and Daniel successfully sold their company for significantly more money than they had anticipated. Before finalizing the sale, they added a clause to the agreement stipulating that the buyers must retain their existing employees or provide them with their accrued leave pay plus an additional 2 years' salary. Daniel stayed on with the new company, wisely investing his share of the profits. Liam placed his earnings into a trust that focused on blue-chip companies. Carol moved into her new apartment above the garage. Liam embraced his newfound freedom, and he became a regular at Conway's. He was well-liked because he rarely sat out a dance, never asked a woman who was there with a partner to dance, and never turned down a dance if a lady asked him. The only occasional issues arose when he was dancing with someone and a drunk tried to cut in. He usually resolved these situations by politely telling the intoxicated individual that he'd be happy to dance with them, but he insisted on leading. This almost always worked, often resulting in the inebriated interloper being good-naturedly laughed out of the establishment. About 6 months into his regular visits to Conway's, Liam saw a familiar face. Across the crowded dance floor, he recognized a girl from his high school days, a girl he hadn't treated well. They had dated for a couple of months, and then he'd abruptly ended things without explanation. Natalie Bennett had been a wonderful person, and his callous behavior towards her still bothered him, even after all these years. She saw him at almost the same time, and a bright, genuine smile lit up her face as she made a beeline for him. Liam was completely unprepared for the warmth of her greeting. "Well, hello there, jerk," she said with a playful giggle. "Breaking any hearts tonight?" Then, before he could respond, she grabbed him and kissed him with a passion that sent a shiver down his spine. His toes curled so tightly they didn't relax for a good 10 minutes after the kiss ended. The small crowd around them erupted in applause and enthusiastic cheers. Natalie then took his hand and led him over to a table where a couple of other women were sitting. Continuing her playful teasing, she introduced him as, "This is the lowlife who dumped me back in high school." Then, with a laugh, she added, "I think I'll punish him by making him dance with me the rest of the night." Liam, catching her infectious energy, played along. "Oh, please no, not that. The Constitution outlawed cruel and unusual punishment. He took her hand, and they danced together for the remainder of the evening. As he was leaving, Natalie kissed him again and slipped a piece of paper into his hand with her home and business phone numbers. "Call me, Lee. I had a great time." And he did. Liam started dating Natalie regularly. Thanks for listening. This story isn't over yet, and things are about to get even more intense. Stay tuned for the next part to see what happens next.